What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and after the culture storm surrounding Netflix's Cleopatra happened, I thought there wasn't much left to say or discuss about the topic. I was convinced the show would just come and go, people would ignore it, and Netflix would end up canceling the series due to low ratings. Well, things just went from pretty bad to nuclear, so here we are today. Not only has Netflix successfully angered an entire nation of people, the director of this upcoming series has decided to commit the cardinal sin of entertainment these days, which is attacking and blaming the audience. The director of Netflix's Cleopatra is Tina Garavi, a Persian woman born in Iran who decided to double down to such a degree the only outcome at this point is outrage like we've never seen before. Variety recently released an exclusive interview with Garavi, and the way this director presents herself is that she is not backing down from backlash. But upon reading the article, the tone deafness is so insanely baffling, I couldn't believe my eyes. This director even goes as far as to make it seem like it was destiny itself that allowed her to make this series, and she even says that she is connected to Cleopatra. I honestly can't describe this in any way that would do this justice than to just read you what she said. So strap yourselves in, grab a nice drink, and let's read an insane rant by the director of Cleopatra. And I quote, "Last summer I was living in Venice Beach and had decided, due to a friend's persistence, to visit a fortune teller. Me, ever the skeptic but game for a laugh, agreed to go along. What the fortune teller said made me roll my eyes. I am not saying you are Cleopatra, but somehow you share her story and are connected." Less than a month later, I got a call from a production company making Jada Pinkett Smith's African Queens, and was subsequently hired to direct 4 episodes of a drama documentary on the life of the controversial leader. The joke was on me. I remember as a kid seeing Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra. I was captivated, but even then I felt the image was not right. Was her skin really that white? With this new production, could I find the answers about Cleopatra's heritage and release her from the stranglehold that Hollywood had placed on her image? Born in Iran, I am a Persian, and Cleopatra's heritage has been attributed at one time or another to the Greeks, the Macedonians, and the Persians. The known facts are that her Macedonian Greek family intermarried with West Asian's Seleucid dynasty and had been in Egypt for 300 years. Cleopatra was 8 generations away from these Ptolemaic ancestors, making the chance of her being white somewhat unlikely. After 300 years, surely we can safely say Cleopatra was Egyptian. She was no more Greek or Macedonian than Rita Wilson or Jennifer Aniston. Both are 1 generation from Greece. Doing the research, I realized what a political act it would be to see Cleopatra portrayed by a black actress. For me, the idea that people had gotten it so incredibly wrong before, historically, from Theda Bara to Monica Bellucci, and recently with Angelina Jolie and Gal Gadot in the running to play her, meant we had to get it even more right. The hunt was on to find the right performer to bring Cleopatra into the 21st century. Why shouldn't Cleopatra be a melanated sister, and why do some people need Cleopatra to be white? Her proximity to whiteness seems to give her value, and for some Egyptians it seems to really matter. After countless auditions, we found in Adele James an actor who could convey not only Cleopatra's beauty but also her strength. What the historians can confirm is that it is more likely that Cleopatra looked like Adele than Elizabeth Taylor ever did. As production got nearer, I realized the magnitude and political nature of this job. It was important to get things right, but also to find a way of telling the story with humanism and nuance. The last thing we needed was another Cleopatra divorced from her womanhood and her power only sexualized. The HBO series Rome portrayed one of the most intelligent, sophisticated, and powerful women in the world as a sleazy, dissipated drug addict. Yet Egypt didn't seem to mind. Where was the outrage then? But portraying her as black, well, perhaps it's not just that I've directed a series that portrays Cleopatra as black, but that I have asked Egyptians to see themselves as Africans, and they are furious at me for that. I am okay with this. While shooting, I became the target of a huge online hate campaign, Egyptians accusing me of blackwashing and stealing their history. Some threatened to ruin my career, which I wanted to tell them was laughable. I was ruining it very well for myself, thank you very much. So, was Cleopatra black? We don't know for sure, but we can be certain she wasn't white like Elizabeth Taylor. We need to have a conversation with ourselves about our colorism and the internalized white supremacy that Hollywood has indoctrinated us with. Most of all, we need to realize that Cleopatra's story is less about her than it is about who we are. It's almost as if we don't realize that misogynoir still has an effect on us today. We need to liberate our imaginations and boldly create a world in which we can explore our historical figures without fearing the complexity that comes with their depiction. I am proud to stand with Queen Cleopatra, a reimagined Cleopatra, and with the team that made this. We reimagined a world over 2,000 years ago where once there was an exceptional woman who ruled. I would like to draw a direct line from her to the women in Egypt who rose up in the Arab uprisings, and to my Persian sisters who are today rebelling against a brutal regime. Never before has it been more important to have women leaders, white or black. End quote. Holy knucking futs, dude. The mental gymnastics of this director is beyond Olympian level at this point. There is so much to unpack here. Okay, there's one part that really stuck out for me personally. It's where this director says we need to liberate our imaginations and explore historical figures without fearing the complexity that comes with their depiction. What she's saying here is essentially a reverse psychology, get out of jail free card way that allows Netflix to create historical revisions of real life people to fit agendas, and that we should be okay with depicting history even if it's not accurate. But here's the problem with that. While I can see where people can be selectively outraged when a fictional character is changed, because the character in question is obviously not real to begin with, but Cleopatra was real. With this same mentality, we should be allowed and encouraged to make revisionist biopics about Genghis Khan and depict him as a white woman. Or tell the story of Vlad the Impaler, but he's played by an Indian grandma. What worries me the most about this way of thinking is that whenever you give an inch to activists, they will undoubtedly take miles in return. The slippery slope of this way of thinking is why so much disorder and chaos is so prevalent in our world today. The part that's both insane and offensive is that this could have just been a weird, woke reimagining. But this Cleopatra series is a part of a broader flagship series of shows for Netflix that falls under the African Queen's title. And like I said in my previous video about this, Netflix has already reimagined prominently historical white figures already and race swapped them. The insane thing is that this push for historical revisionism is being shielded by the bulletproof virtue signaling shield that is identity politics. We've been so conditioned to not speak out against these things that people out of fear are just accepting new truths. But it's not because they agree with these changes, but because they're afraid of pushing back against it. There's no issue from me when it comes to wanting more female-led or black-centric media. I agree that we don't have enough actual historical big-budget depictions of black culture that is both authentic and well-made. And as long as the media in question doesn't belittle men for women's sake, then it's totally fine in my books. History is full of incredible stories just waiting to be told. I mean, look at the Assassin's Creed series and what they've done for better or worse with history as a playground. But the major problem here is that you have one group of ethnic people under the guise of social justice appropriating the history and consuming the identity of another group. Things have gotten so out of hand with this that an Egyptian lawyer has made international news because they're suing Netflix over this. Mahmoud Al-Semeri is the lawyer who filed a case against Netflix, and Al-Semeri is calling what Netflix has done a crime. Al-Semeri was quoted saying that most of what Netflix's platform displays contradicts Islamic and societal values and principles, especially Egyptian ones. He goes to say that this revisionist series promotes Afrocentrism, and because that movement is fully integrated into social media culture as acceptable, this race-swapping series is using slogans and writings to distort and obliterate the Egyptian identity on an international level. Also, in the report, it said that in order to preserve the Egyptian national and cultural identity among Egyptians all over the world, that the law must seek to take the necessary legal measures against this platform, being Netflix. Finally, Al-Semri's reports demand that not only does the Egyptian government need to take action, but that Netflix should be banned in the country for its use of cultural appropriation. And he demands Netflix should never be legally allowed to use Egyptian stories or history in any form that distorts or falsifies the history of Egypt as a nation. Look, I would have loved for an authentic, high-budgeted series about Cleopatra and Egypt and have it be told. I would love to see more historical series about many other times in history, but this is just wrong. And not only that, but it's honestly offensive towards black people as well. What the director Tina Garavi and executive producer Jada Pinkett Smith have done here is say that Cleopatra, who's Macedonian Greek by the way, that her story is more important to showcase than any other black character in history. And you usually lead with what you consider to be the best content-wise to engage viewers into sticking around for more. This is also why the first and last episodes of any show usually have the higher budgets as well, in case you didn't know that. So Jada, in her infinite woke wisdom, looked at all the potential stories and historical figures she had at her fingertips. She brushed them all aside and took the Macedonian Greek figure and went, this is what we need for our African Queen series.
There is no God here.
The audacity of this entire situation is it's incredible to me. There was even news about a top Egyptologist, I can't even say the word, a guy that studies Egypt a lot. He's named Dr. Zahi Hawass. Anyway, he was interviewed regarding all of this nonsense. When asked if Cleopatra was fake, Dr. Hawass said it was completely false. The doc then said that Cleopatra was Greek, meaning that she was light-skinned, not black. And also added that the only Egyptian rulers known to have been black are the Kushite kings of the 25th dynasty from 747 to 656 BC. The doc ended by saying that Netflix is in the wrong for trying to provoke confusion by spreading false and deceptive facts that the origin of the Egyptian civilization is black. Then, executive idiot producer Jada Pinkett Smith had this to say, and I quote, "We don't often get to see or hear stories about black queens, and that was really important for me as well as for my daughter, and just for my community to be able to know those stories because there are tons of them. The sad part is that we don't have ready access to these historical women who were so powerful and were the backbones of African nations." End quote.
Stories that are stolen by oppressors and suppressed. What they're doing is taking away your greatest weapon because words are more powerful than anything.
The producers of the show also worked closely with Cleopatra scholar Dr. Sally Ann Ashton, who had this to say, quote, "Her ethnicity is not the focus of Queen Cleopatra, but we did intentionally decide to depict her of mixed ethnicity to reflect theories about Cleopatra's possible Egyptian ancestry and the multicultural nature of ancient Egypt." End quote. How the hell did someone who claims themselves as a scholar and expert on Cleopatra just openly admit that they changed her on purpose? At this point, this lady is about as much an expert on Cleopatra as I am when it comes to making lasagna, which by the way is zero. Netflix should just hire me for the next African Queen series. I'll just say I'm an expert and we can go ahead and make a series about, I don't know, Shirley Ann Jackson. But since I can use my imagination and not be constrained, we'll have Alec Baldwin play her to really spice things up. All of this nonsense just further proves to me at least that modern day woke creators really will take miles when you give them just a small inch of goodwill. If Cleopatra isn't even safe from woke reimaginings, that means nothing is off the table at this point. Who's the next unfortunate insert for this African Queen series, Netflix? Let me guess, Joan of Arc. Hell, why not swap Anne Frank and add her to this series too, because clearly it doesn't matter. After all, since we're liberating our imaginations of any moral compass, why the hell not? I can't wait for Novak Djokovic to have a biopic on Netflix and have him race swapped into a they-them African woman. Because, as ridiculous as that sounds, that is literally what is happening here. The real ethical things we need to be pushing is to not fight racism with more twisted versions of racism. We don't need to appropriate cultures and change history. We don't need to have identity political oppression Olympic struggles to see who's more culturally oppressed. The Egyptian people deserved better than this, and the fact the director of this dumpster fire thought doubling down and attacking the audience was a good idea, it says it all. These woke creators truly view us as beneath them. They really do believe they are better than any of us, and we should be thankful to be able to consume the garbage they keep spewing on a weekly basis. Netflix is such a dumpster fire these past few years, it's honestly impressive they are capable of finding new lows to sink to. How the hell do you ruin things like Cleopatra so badly? Then again, this is the same company that managed to get Henry Cavill to jump ship when it came to The Witcher, when all you had to do was follow the damn books, but even that was asking too much. Look what HBO did with The Last of Us, and that show was a massive success, but no, we can't have nice things, so we lost our Geralt of Rivia, and now we're race-swapping historical figures. I think I'm going to stop here before I inevitably turn into the Joker. But I just want to end by repeating what I've been saying for almost a year now. For the love of God, Netflix, and all of you other insufferable media platforms out there, stop attacking and gaslighting your viewer base. Stop ruining what should be easy slam dunks, and for the love of all that is good in this world, stop blaming us for your moronic woke failures. I'm done for now. I can feel myself turning super sane with how annoying these idiots are. So I'll stop here. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more, and remember, if God gives you lemons, you find a new God. That's an old internet joke that most people probably won't get, but I'm leaving it in there anyway. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.